Twice as Good with Hadley and Delaney is brought to you by Mila. Immer besser, forever better. Mila. And by Cuties. Cute you can eat. Cuties. And by Kitchen Works. Wherever we go, that's where the party's at. Kitchen Works.
As always, don't forget the first 4 rules of kids cooking. 1. Wash your hands. 2. Ask an adult for help, especially with hot items, sharp utensils, and appliances. 3. Don't be afraid to try new ingredients, especially if they are green. And 4. Have fun. These 4 rules make cooking twice as healthy and twice as good. Hi, I'm Hadley. And I'm Delaney. And this is Twice as Good. Honored to be at the Biltmore Estate, located in Asheville, in the state of North Carolina. One of the most appealing things for many people who visit is the view of the Blue Ridge Mountains. Fun science fact, the Blue Ridge Mountains actually get their name because they look blue from a distance. The color results when the area's countless streets release isoprene, creating a distinctive blue haze over the mountain. The Blue Ridge Mountains are home to 2 national parks, Shenandoah National Park and Great Smoky Mountains Park. These 2 parks are connected by the Blue Ridge Parkway, a gorgeous 469-mile scenic parkway, and much of that parkway follows the route of the historic Appalachian Trail. Biltmore was built for George Washington Vanderbilt, who was the heir to one of the largest family fortunes ever amassed in America. The estate was begun in the year 1889 and was opened to Mr. Vanderbilt's family and friends during a Christmas Eve party in 1895. It is still owned by the Vanderbilt family descendants. Measuring a staggering 175,000 square feet, Biltmore has the distinction of being the single largest privately owned house in the United States. Surrounding the house are the grounds, which are just as impressive. The original footprint covered 125,000 acres and incorporated 75 acres of formal gardens surrounding the house. Biltmore is a National Historic Landmark. Vanderbilt commissioned one of the most prominent architects of his day, a man named Richard Morris Hunt, to design this French chateau-inspired home. Mr. Hunt was also responsible for designing the facade for the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City and the pedestal on which the Statue of Liberty stands. Biltmore House, which we'll be visiting today, encompasses an amazing 8 acres of floor space and a total of 250 rooms, including 33 bedrooms, 43 bathrooms, 65 fireplaces, and 3 kitchens. Today, we'll be making a visit to the estate's production garden and using some locally grown ingredients to cook a few of Biltmore's signature dishes. And after that, we'll tour the Grand Banquet Hall to get a feel for what it would be like to eat here at the height of the Gilded Age. Because George Washington Vanderbilt modeled Biltmore on European estates that were self-sustaining, he ran a village with an agriculture industry that still thrives today. Everything from livestock to grain to vegetables were all part of what made and continues to make Biltmore self-sustaining. When did the Biltmore Gardens begin?
Well, actually, the gardens probably started before Biltmore did. There were farmers here, and when Mr. Vanderbilt came and bought the farms, the farmers stayed, and they grew produce for the house and for the families that lived there. And actually, my great-grandfather was one of those people that was here when Mr. Vanderbilt came. They had cows and sheep and chickens, and they grew fresh vegetables and fresh fruits. They had an apple orchard that they grew. Again, they had to grow a lot of their own produce, and they had thousands of acres where they could do that.
What kind of agriculture do you have today?
We have a lot of the same kind of agriculture. My little field-to-table garden here, we do berries and fresh vegetables here in the field and in the greenhouse, so we have food all year long. And we raise our own beef and lamb. We have chickens who lay eggs that we use in the restaurants every day. Mr. Vanderbilt was a leader in agriculture. He saw a lot of the land being damaged by the way people were farming, and he brought modern agriculture methods there to save the land and rebuild it. And we do the same thing here with composting and crop rotation and those kinds of things that take care of the land and the soil so we can have it for more generations.
What does compost mean?
Well, composting is where we take the leftovers from the kitchens, we pile it up in a big pile, and we stir it to keep air in there, and it breaks down and it becomes just like very rich soil. And then we add it back to the garden. So really, almost nothing is wasted. If we don't eat it, we put it back in the field to grow more food. Today we're going to work in the greenhouse, and we're going to harvest some of the crops that you're going to take across the river and work with Chef Kirk in preparing your meal today. These are our microgreens, and we have some edible flowers, and we're also going to harvest some lettuce. Just like in the kitchen where you need to wash your hands, since we don't have soap and water here, you need to use a little hand sanitizer.
Okay.
And sanitize your hands before we start harvesting. And then we're gonna harvest some microgreens, and I'll show you guys, it's just kind of like giving them a haircut. You just take the scissors and just cut it off and lay it in there. And this is some nice baby lettuces. If you guys want to do some of that, and just fill that tray up. And microgreens, we just sow the seeds in the soil and just let them just sprout up and grow for about 10 days, so they're very fresh and tender. Now, the other thing that a lot of people don't know is that flowers are edible. Now, not all your flowers are edible, so you don't want to go in your parents' garden and start eating daffodils or something, because they might make you sick. But these are nasturtiums, and they're very tasty. They actually taste a little bit like pepper. And we just take them and just pinch the little flowers off. And if y'all want to do that,
what about the little buds? Should we
we'll
put
leave
those
the
too?
little buds.
What do you put nasturtium flowers in?
Mostly in salads, but I think you guys are going to make pesto with them today. And here, let's put a few of these nice orange ones in there too to get some nice color. There you go. That's great, guys. And we'll close them up so we don't lose them. And there's some of your flowers that we'll use for your pesto today. We're going to have to move to another part of the greenhouse, and we're going to harvest some of our hydroponic lettuce.
Let's go.
Okay. So this is our hydroponic lettuce, where we grow it in these big raceways. They hold about 2,500 gallons of water with the nutrients in it for the lettuce to grow. And this is some romaine lettuce that's been in here for about 4 weeks. And we're going to harvest it today. And what we do is we just take the knife and just cut the lettuce off and leave the bottom leaves because they might be dirty. And one thing we have to be careful with when we pack it is, see all that sap coming out?
Yeah.
If we put that on top of the other lettuce, it will look like slugs have been crawling on our lettuce. So we have to be careful how we pack it so it stays nice and pretty. Do y'all want to cut some of this?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll
let you take the knife.
You got it.
And just fold it back and just saw it right off, just like that.
You have to keep your fingers away from the knife.
That's right. Keep your finger and always cut away from yourself.
Hydroponics is a method of growing plants using mineral nutrient solutions in water, but without soil.
There's no soil in here. Well, actually, there's just a little bit, and that's in here, just this little bit that we start the seeds in. And then the roots all grow down in the water, and it grows really fast, and it makes it crisp and tender. You can eat it right out of the field. It doesn't have any bugs on it or dirt on it. And we seal it up in this nice clean plastic bag to protect it. It's ready to go to our chefs, and then this afternoon or this evening, it could be on your dinner table. So thanks for coming today and helping us harvest this stuff.
Thank you so much, Mr. Eli,
welcome.
for showing us that amazing greenhouse. We
You
had a
are
great
so
time.
welcome. Well, I will talk to you girls later, and thanks so much for coming to Biltmore and visiting our field-to-table garden. And now I got to go take this over to the chefs so they can start making lunch.
We're here in the catering kitchen at one of Biltmore's event facilities, Lion Crest, with Mr. Chef Kirk Fiore. We are using some of the ingredients we picked with Mr. Eli at Biltmore's production garden to prepare 3 Biltmore-inspired dishes. These dishes all have a Western Carolina feel. What will we be making first?
We're gonna make our strawberry and petite green salad, the greens that you got from Mr. Eli over at the farm. We have some local strawberries here. We need to make our dressing first. So we're gonna go ahead and add our white balsamic vinegar. So we're gonna go ahead and add about 1/4 cup of vinegar. We're gonna clean 2 cups of strawberries. So while you're doing that, I'm gonna slice some of the strawberries to garnish the salad with.
Okay.
We're gonna
Are
cut
we
them into
putting
quarters.
these in our dressing?
We're gonna put some in the dressing, and then we're gonna garnish our salad with it to make it look pretty. So we'll put 1 cup of strawberries in the dressing. We'll add some. And this is, we call this lavender honey. So the bees that made this honey used lavender flowers to make it. We just need about 1 tablespoon. Next, we're gonna add a shallot.
Okay.
So we're gonna just take off the end, as we did before. Take off both ends.
Are we going to peel it?
We are gonna peel it, so I'm gonna help you out. I'm gonna score it just a little bit with my paring knife. And then you can go ahead and peel that.
That does make it a bit easier.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm just gonna cut it in half. We're gonna add that to our vinaigrette. Lastly, we're gonna add a couple pinches of salt and then 1 pinch of pepper. I'll start with a low speed so it doesn't come flying out of the blender.
Yes.
And slowly turn it up. We slowly add in our oil, a little bit of olive oil. Pour out our dressing for our
That
salad.
looks delicious.
And we'll just pour out what we need for our salad, and we can reserve the rest in a mason jar and put it in the refrigerator for later. So now we just need to put our salad together. So we're gonna make what's called a fresh cheese, or it's also called ricotta. Take whole milk, and we're gonna bring it up to a boil. So once it comes up to a boil, the whole milk, we're gonna add the juice of 2 lemons. As we add the lemon juice, you'll slowly start to see the curd separate from the whey.
Whey is the liquid remaining after milk has been curdled and strained. Sweet whey is the byproduct of making certain hard cheeses like cheddar or Swiss cheese. Sour whey is the byproduct produced during the making of yogurts or cottage cheese.
All right, so we add the lemon juice to the milk, and then the curd separate from the whey. So that's gonna be our cheese for a salad. So what we're gonna do is slowly ladle that through our cheesecloth. So for a gallon of milk, you end up with about 1 pound of cheese. So we're just gonna let that cool at room temperature. So we're gonna put the dressing.
You want to help me? Sure, I'll hold.
Just a few strawberries. So let's go ahead and just toss it a little bit.
That looked really good.
And let's garnish with our fresh strawberries. And we're gonna add a little bit of this warm ricotta on top, or fresh cheese. I love cheese, so I'm gonna add a lot. Why don't we garnish it with a few more flowers from Mr. Eli? So we have these nice pansies.
Are these edible flowers?
They are edible.
Just a few
Pansies
of
are.
them. We put them around the outside.
Whatever you think looks good.
There you go.
And then we're gonna, what I like to do is clean up the rim a little bit.
It looks really pretty. This is one of the most opulent rooms in the Biltmore house, the Grand Banquet Hall, and we're pleased to have one of Biltmore's curators, Miss Leslie Klinger, as our guide to tell us all about it. Hi, Miss Leslie. It must be a huge thrill to work somewhere as stunning and as beautiful as Biltmore.
It is. It's such a beautiful place to work. I've always loved history and books and reading and art, and so to work in a place like Biltmore is a dream come true.
Wow, this room is really spectacular. Do the family eat meals in here all the time?
It is a really spectacular room. It's a huge room, and the ceilings go almost 7 stories high. The family ate their dinners in here. So Mr. and Mrs. Vanderbilt invited their guests. They sat at the table behind us.
What kinds of events were held here in the Vanderbilts' time?
Well, it's a really good question. So dinner was held here every night at 8 o'clock, but they had all their special occasions here too. So they threw great parties. Particularly, they threw a Christmas party every single year. They brought a huge Christmas tree into this room, filled the room with presents, and then everyone who worked on the estate came. Their children received presents, and then they had a big dance party afterwards.
What did the people wear?
Well, at dinner time, they wore their fanciest clothing. So women wore ball gowns and they wore gloves. Men wore black tie suits, almost like tuxedos, white vests, and white ties. So during the Vanderbilt's time, you could change up to 5 or 6 times a day. You'd have a different outfit for breakfast time. You'd have a different outfit if you went out walking in the gardens. And then every night at 7 o'clock, the butler would ring a gong and you would know it's time to go to your room to wash your hands, brush your hair, and put on your fanciest dinner gown.
How many people could sit at this table?
It's a really big table, isn't it? The interesting thing is it gets even bigger. The architect that designed the house actually designed this table too. We think that it would seat around 40 people, but the most we have on record coming to have dinner at Biltmore House is 38.
What did all the flags stand for?
Well, the Vanderbilts loved American history, and so the flags that surround us are the flags of some of the original states. And then there's one special flag just above the doors that Mrs. Vanderbilt had made to honor everyone who served during World War I. The tapestries are beautiful, so they're more than 400 years old. They tell a story from mythology, and they are just filled with imagery. And the neat thing is they have real silver and gold threads in them. And so at night, if you can imagine the lights going and the candles going, how much they sparkle. They're beautiful.
Why are there 3 fireplaces?
It's really because the room is so large that they needed that much to really heat the space. And it's really just for atmosphere too. If you can imagine on winter's nights, those 3 fireplaces crackling and popping and how warm and fun it is.
What kind of food would they serve?
Well, you could have, if you were having dinner with the Vanderbilts, you would be eating 5, 6, 7, sometimes even 8 courses. So you'd be eating a lot of food, but just little bits at a time. And so it would start sometimes with oysters. They would have special salads. They would have a main course with meat.
How long would they eat?
It depended on if they had entertainment happening or not, but you could have dinner for an hour and a half, almost 2 hours. It would take a lot of patience. We know that one of Mr. Vanderbilt's very favorite things was turkey. And so we have a menu book from 1904, and every week they're having different kinds of turkey, chipped turkey, roasted turkey, and sometimes they're eating it 3 times a week. The kitchen would have been busy all day long, so it would have started very, very, very early. Someone would have gotten up, started the fire in the stove because it was a stove that had both wood and coal. That would have been kept hot all day long, and then they would have started preparing things for the meals. So a lot of chopping, a lot of peeling apples. Everything would have been busy all day long to get ready for dinner at 8 o'clock. This is the butler's pantry, and this is where all of the dishes and the crystal would have been kept, and where the butler would have plated the meals before they went out in the banquet hall.
What's this book?
This book is really special. It tells us a lot about Biltmore, and it is the menu book from 1904, so it tells us weeks and weeks of their menus. One of the most fun nights is in November of 1904. This was the menu that was served for Mr. Vanderbilt's birthday, and you can see that it was a menu for 24 people. And then they had oysters, a special kind of soup called consommé, boiled halibut, chicken mousse, vanilla ice cream, brandied peaches, and assorted cakes.
Next, we're gonna make our sweet tea brine for our turkey breast. First, we're gonna add brown sugar.
Our grandparents really like sweet tea in
Do
their
they?
room here.
We drink a lot of it down here. So, Delaney, you wanna help me with the salt?
What kind of salt is that?
This is kosher salt. Then we're gonna go ahead and add 5 to 6 rosemary sprigs.
Do you want to add them, Hadley? Sure. We love rosemary. Thank you. Rosemary is a member of the mint family. Did you know that in Latin, rosemary means dew of the sea?
We're gonna add a little bit of fresh garlic. We're gonna do 4 to 5 cloves.
Okay.
Not 4 to 5 bulbs, right? That would be too much.
Way too much.
Way too much. So we just lightly tap each one. And what that does helps us peel the garlic. It peels a lot easier if we just take the end.
Are we gonna put the whole thing in?
We are. We're gonna put a whole clove in. We're not gonna need to chop it, which makes it a little quicker. And the last ingredient would be the shallots. And it's similar to peeling garlic. And so you take both ends, and then you cut it in half, and then just gently peel. Just like to try to peel that half now.
Is this enough?
That's perfect.
Are we going to put this over the turkey?
We are. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add our water. It's 1 gallon of water. It can be cold or room temperature. Okay, girls, now we're gonna add the tea. And this is a black tea, and you just put it in the pot, and we're gonna let that steep. Now we're gonna just warm this up to steep the tea and to dissolve the salt and sugar. So in the meantime, we can get our turkey ready. Brining penetrates the meat with the salt and sugar and all the flavors that we put into the brines.
Brining is a process similar to marination, in which meat or poultry is soaked in a salt-based solution. Brining can take anywhere from 30 minutes to a few days. The amount of time needed to brine depends on the size of the meat. Brining makes cooked meat moister and more flavorful as the flavors in the brine, via the process of osmosis, make their way inside the meat.
So we're just gonna let that marinate for about 3 hours. Now we're gonna make the pesto, the other component to our tea sandwich. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get our 2 cloves of garlic ready. So we're gonna go ahead and add our garlic. And then if you wanna measure out 2 cups of the nasturtium flowers.
These are really pretty.
They are. Next, we're gonna add 1 cup of basil. This is our hydroponic basil. Eli does a nice job growing these.
Yes, he does.
And we're gonna add our Parmesan cheese. We're gonna add a 1/2 cup. And instead of having to grate it, we're gonna let our food processor do the work for us. All right, what's the last ingredient, do you remember? Pine nuts, right? So we're gonna do a 1/4 cup of pine nuts.
I'll add it. There we go.
We're gonna add our little bit of lemon juice. We're gonna use our microplane. Just a little bit. We're gonna add just a little bit of salt. So we're gonna go ahead and turn it on. Let it chop it up for about 30 seconds. And then we're gonna go ahead and drizzle in about a 1/4 cup of olive oil. And this is gonna go on both sides of the bread to make our sandwich. So our turkey just came out of the oven and we cooled it down for about an hour. Then you're gonna go ahead and we're gonna slice it the way it would be on the bird. So we're gonna slice it the long way. And we're gonna try to slice it nice and thin. And this is brioche bread, and it's made with egg yolks and butter. We're gonna do nice, about 1/4 inch thick slices. We're gonna lay them out on the cutting board. And then after she spreads the pesto, if you wanna lay our turkey on there, and then I'll show you what we'll do after that. What we can do too is maybe we can garnish it with a little basil inside too. What do you think?
Oh, that'd be a good
For
idea.
some color.
Yes.
How do you like yours cut? You like them in half or in triangles?
Maybe in half.
Yeah, me too. All right, we have our 3 tea sandwiches. Well, keeping in the spirit of Biltmore and George Vanderbilt's time, we're gonna make an old-fashioned Victorian drink. In this case, we're gonna use hibiscus flowers. We used white balsamic again, and sugar, and water and ice. And that's it. It's just like making lemonade. Add a little bit of ice. We're gonna mix it all right in the mason jar. If you wanna add our sugar, it's gonna be about a 1/2 cup of sugar.
Okay.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add the vinegar to it, but before we do that, we're gonna do what's called muddling.
To muddle is to combine ingredients in a mixing glass before adding the majority of the liquid ingredients. Often, a muddler uses a long pestle-shaped instrument with a rounded end, which is used to mash the ingredients.
So what we do is just shake the sugar and ice. We're gonna open it back up. Then we're gonna add our vinegar. We're gonna do a 1/2 cup of vinegar.
Okay.
And those are the hibiscus flowers. We're gonna add a little more ice to it. It's hot outside, so we wanna make sure it's nice and cold. And then we're gonna almost fill it with water here. So about another cup of water. And just leave enough room so we can shake it. We wanna make sure we get all the sugar from the bottom, so we're gonna turn it upside down.
Okay.
And now we're gonna pour it over our glasses here. It's gonna taste like, almost like grape juice. What do you think?
It's really good.
Here we are at the lagoon, one of my favorite spots on the estate. As you can see the house right behind us here. It's a great spot for a picnic today.
It is.
You wanna help yourself?
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you both again for coming and spend the day.
This is delicious. We want to thank everyone here at Biltmore for taking the time to show us this grand home and share their knowledge with us. Preserving history and finding a way to bring it to life is what Biltmore is all about. We hope you will try some of these North Carolina-inspired Biltmore signature dishes because they are twice as good. Information about the dishes prepared on today's show, including a listing of ingredients and the recipes, please visit us at twiceasgoodshow.com.
Twice as Good with Hadley and Delaney is brought to you by Mila. Immer besser, forever better. Mila. And by Cuties. Cute you can eat. Cuties. And by KitchenWorks. Wherever we go, that's where the party's at. KitchenWorks.